Hey, Brian, thanks so much for making time for today's conversation. Been looking forward to it for a few weeks now. And as we get started, we'd love to just learn a little bit more. I know your background before Bamboo HR spanned QuickBooks, namely Personio. So tell us a little bit about kind of what brought you into Bamboo HR and how that opportunity has really gravitated to you.
Yeah, well, first of all, I thanks for having me. I think the funny story behind me joining Bamboo is, we had Bamboo had this recruiter come in to work with Brad, our CEO, and start a nationwide search whatever, I don't know. And so we get on the call, and I'm in Alpine, Utah. He's in Alpine, Utah, very small town. He thought maybe I was in Park City or something, but I was right here. And so to be honest, I've been in and out of the space in HR. I've always loved it. I've known Bamboo, and it took kind of that call and following conversations and me loving the space. And then also the idea of working for a company, in my own backyard sounded really cool. At the time, I was working for a company called Audit Board, was the chief product officer there. It was in LA. It wasn't a bad commute. It was, a plane ride away every other week. But anyway, so there's many reasons to join. I think, again, number one, I love the space. Two, just the proximity and the excitement of returning to an office and working with people every day. And then just the people here at Bamboo are awesome from leadership down. So that's what got me in. And then, before Bamboo, like I said, Audit Board, you mentioned a few. I was at Pendo for 4 years as their CPO, namely as well. And then I kind of grew up at Intuit, QuickBooks, TurboTax, all of that. They kind of taught me all about product management and product, all that.
That's awesome. Well, coincidentally enough, Audit Board was a customer of OutSail's a few years ago when they were shopping HRIS systems. So know them. I can actually remember in 2022, because we've been working with Bamboo HR since 2018. I can remember when you joined the organization, some of the excitement that the team was sharing with us about, hey, we have someone new leading product, and we're ramping up the velocity a little bit. So what was it? What was kind of the mandate when you joined, and what were some of the things that you wanted to bring as you took over?
Yeah, I mean, the mandate was, I think, over the last 10 years, it's been an incredibly competitive marketplace. And I think, not just let's increase velocity, but I think it's innovation. It's, building on kind of the shoulders of the product that had been before and just adding on to. I think the clearest mandate to me was kind of going from maybe a single product to multi-product to platform. And obviously that makes a lot of sense now, especially in the AI era, but it's really, the mandate's been all about platform. So investing there, whether it's new talent, new approach, but innovation, platform, all the things.
When you say platform, is that, I know there was like a big acquisition of Trax to kind of unify the HR and the payroll side of things. Was that part of that effort, was making sure that those are more native?
Yeah, it was, I think the acquisition of Trax happened 4 years before I joined. And so I think it was, to me, it was making it, much more cohesive, much more integrated experience, less of a kind of syncing of data and more of like, no, this is integrative, native payroll, HR, ben admin experience. So that first year, we launched payroll. We had been, we'd been in the space, but we really launched it that year and then launched ben admin. So again, going from single product to multi-product, and now I think we're in that platform AI era.
The evolution that I've watched, I think early on, it was a lot of HRIS and recruiting were kind of the two big calling cards. And then I think the payroll and benefits pieces have really kind of rounded it out to more like a public HCM company and not like just kind of employee database. When you think about the overarching product vision, like what are some of the goals that you guys have for what you want to develop over the next couple of years?
Well, now it's all about kind of our agentic future, right? Like it is about, and I think in that AI agentic future, so much of it, builds and compounds on what we already have. And it's not to say, hey, we have data, we have distribution, we're good. It's how do we turn that into better intelligence, better context, And then how do we actually build on our platform an agent platform that allows us to shift the interaction, the expectations, the value exchange, I mean, everything. So it's like the largest transformation we'll ever go through. I mean, even going from single product to multi-product to platform, I think pales in comparison into, in this next era and the changes that we need to make. And to not only be relevant, but frankly, to try to win.
What are the bottlenecks as you guys try to get into that agentic future? Is it customers that aren't ready to adopt it? Is it the models aren't good enough? Is it your engineering team has to rethink how they go to market and build products? Like what are the things that make it jump?
Probably all of the above, but I think it's funny. We think about AI transformation at Bamboo in three different ways. One is just as a company, and forget about for a minute the product and the services we deliver, but like as a product team or a operations team or a CX team, like how do we change the way we work? So how do we consume the different tools and AI capabilities? And then the second is like how we build. And so we're rethinking end to end, the software development lifecycle. So it's not just that the stuff we build, but like actually how we build and how we work is part of our AI transformation. And then third is kind of more, I think, more clear, which is, what we actually ship and what we actually build and how our customers experience our platform. And so those are the three pillars. And I would say across each one of those areas, it's a lot of work. It's not just transformation in terms of new tools, new techniques, new approaches, but it's a mindset. The way we approach the work has to be totally different. The way we think about value exchange is different. And so in terms of the bottlenecks, I think, yes, there's absolutely, we want to meet our customers where they're at, but what's interesting about our customers who we love is like this, they share with us like, hey, your roadmap is our AI strategy. In other words, they're looking to us to like tell them how within HR, how they might want to think about using the tools to transform and how they do the work at their companies. And so it's not so much as hurdles as just the natural kind of all the things that we've been taught and learned and overcoming the inertia of overcoming that and being open to learn and to say, I don't know. And we need to experiment and learn and test. And like, so for example, like our job isn't done when we ship a new feature that's like an AI feature or a new agent. It's, did it change their behavior in a positive way so much that they couldn't imagine going back to the old way where they're clicking around the UI, automating something when the agent can actually just do that for them with confidence. So yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's like, it's both we're evolving, we're transforming, but so is our customers. We're kind of on that journey together, which I think it's kind of happening to all of us at the same time.
It most certainly is. And I want to hold on how you're internally building with AI first and then come back to the employee customer side of things. But one of the questions that is curious to me is with how rapidly the ground is shifting in AI, how do you confidently build? So I think back to a couple of years ago, like RAG or retrieval augmented generation was like the big theme and how we were supposed to design things. And then that's gone by the wayside. And now, everything was built around MCP, but now they're saying that that might be, so like, how do you just try to have a vision and move forward knowing that the ground is shaking all the time?
Yeah, I love this question because, it's funny. I was thinking about this very question, like in prepping for a board meeting. Because, you think about going into a board, your investors, the founders, and you're like, how do I go in there and say, how do I walk away where they feel super confident about what we're doing and what we're building? And, on one side of the spectrum, if you're like, I have no idea, therefore we're not doing anything, to, no, I know exactly what we're doing and here's what it is. It's interesting because I think both you would lose, there would be some loss of confidence. Like, wait, you don't know anything, therefore you're not going to do anything. And with such conviction in a world where it's uncertain, like, isn't there any humility? Like, so I think both you would lose confidence. So I think the way that I approach it is, one, this is like, we kind of talk in language of like assertion. Here's my belief. Here's an assertion that I have that's loosely held. And what that allows us to do is like, hey, in this point in time, if this is how we see the future, this is how we think it's going to happen, and based on that, this is how we're building, and this is what we're building looks like. And the reality is that can change. And how does that change? Well, it changes by us continuing to do experimentation. And one of the most fun things that I've seen with our teams is the rapid acceleration of being able to build prototypes. So building prototypes, getting those in front of customers, and learning, that starts to shape and increase your conviction on those assertions, or they fall apart, or you get new. So I think it's about, the velocity of learning versus maybe even the velocity of shipping new product. Like, I think we have to, like, the saying internally is we want to be learn-it-alls, not know-it-alls, which is like cute and fun bumper sticker, but I think it's really true, which is, here's what we believe right now, therefore this is how we're behaving. And in that acting and moving forward is when you discover the new thing, or you have the new insight. And so that's been our approach. And so far, I think it's built confidence with the board, and it's positioned us, with our customers of like, hey, we are obsessed with trying to find the solution, the answer to improve your lives, and to do more stuff for you with confidence. So.
No, I love it. It's a great answer. And I think like the only way to operate right now is just trying to stay as close to that frontier as possible and just play and dance with it and kind of see what you find as you kind of dig deeper in it. So, yeah, super helpful. And like I said, would love to shift back to like kind of the customer side of things. You said something really interesting that, companies are telling you guys are their AI strategy. And that makes sense. Like if they're getting pressure from their C-suite, hey, what are we doing to be agentic? Then rather than, I think maybe there's a subset of HR professionals out there, and there is, that are, building Claude connectors and skills and getting really in the weeds. But I think the vast majority of the market is probably saying, okay, I expect my system of record, my core HRIS system to come and deliver this. So how are you guys kind of trying to meet those expectations?
Well, I think, number one, I love the trust that our customers put in us, to deliver, to have built a pattern where they're like, okay, you're not going to sit on it. You're not going to wait as you guys ship things. What it means is that you've thought about this, and it's going to help me think about, what we implement in our own companies or whatever. But, I think to me, like the biggest opportunity that we have is to, again, whatever, you talked about, whether it's MCPs or how we connect data, how agents talk to agents, all the different technology. Every week there's something new. I think you kind of go through that exercise of like, okay, in a world that's changing every way, what are the things that will always be true? And I think about, and what they expect from us. I mean, they expect, good records of data, right? That kind of represent also like, we call it our trust layer, which is like the composition of both governance, which respects access levels, roles, permissions, as well as compliance. So not only is it that we maintain a pristine employee record, we maintain compliance, and we also respect those access levels, roles, permissions. So as more and more agents come online, and as systems become more autonomous, what we'll see is that the agents will do more work. And what happens is that the HR leaders or the companies will have to be more of the policy makers, or they'll have to be in the governance role of like, okay, well, if this is how they behave based on this policy, let's challenge the policy. Let's think about the policy. So the way, going back to your question, like, again, with all these different things changing, what do we think and what do we believe will always be true? And again, part of software, I think that gets overlooked is not just the building of it, but the maintenance of it, right? Like, so we're going to maintain compliance. We're going to maintain access levels, roles, permissions as agents come online. We're going to maintain that employee record that has you know, temporal data that fits inside a data model that the AI can access. And so whether AI happened or not, like that stuff always is true and is needed. And so as we do that, but whether it's 10 years ago, whether it's today, I think it will always be important and they can always count on it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the like access permissions and the trust that that creates and how important that is. Because a thought I've had as we see these shifts is it feels like in the near term, a lot of the experience is going to move towards a chat window rather than the user, the admin going and navigating tabs and menus themselves. And I wonder in that world, does the difference between UIs compress? Like right now, we see buyers who a lot of times buy on UI. This one was less cluttered and prettier, and this one was really outdated. Um, if everything more or less converges on chat windows, then the differentiation can really only happen on what happens behind the chat, the architecture, the permissions. So one, I guess, do you think that's more or less accurate or could you stress test that? And two, I think Bamboo HR has had a really big advantage in the market because of UI, right? It's a beloved system. It's easy to use. It's approachable. Does that, erode some of the strength that you guys have in the market comparatively?
It's a great question. It's one we talk a lot about. And so to answer your question directly, I do think that, and kind of one of our assertions is that the interface will continue to fragment. Especially when I think about at the employee level. Like for example, and Salesforce talked about this recently when their launch of Salesforce 360, their headless platform, and they talked about people not wanting to log in the system. And I think that could be relatively true statement for many systems. Like I don't want to log in if the agent's going to do a work, if it's just a chat experience, then I want to do the work. I want to have the conversation where the work is happening. I don't want to have to log in. And I think that's true. Now, you're correct in the past and through today, like one of the things that our HR admins love about our system is that because it's easy to use, adoption is wide across their employee base. And because if their employees don't use it, then what do? They're going to come to their HR, they're going to have the question, they're going to look for their W-2 or their pay stub or whatever it is. And so that ease of use makes adoption really easy. But if you fast forward to the near future, it's like, well, let's say I'm in Slack and I can just ask Slack, hey, what can you just give me my latest pay stub? And it'll render it right there. And that's through that connection. But that's for that use case. But can I run payroll? Can I approve payroll? Can I do a payroll exception? Can I pay myself? Can I ask, through Slack or through another chat experience, what the salary of my boss is? Like, the reality is, like, of course not. But so what is the thing that governs that? And so that trust layer that we talk about, I think will be more important than the UI in the future. It's going to be, do I trust that this system is going to behave accordingly in an autonomous way where it understands and respects execution authority. If I'm in another UI, a different interface, another chat outside of Bamboo, it has to be able to respect that execution authority. And that's what I think customers will be paying for, is not just a nice UI. The UI is will be determined based on their workflow and where their employees or where their people manager, where they spend time, not what the system is. And I think that's a net benefit to society.
Yeah, I think I've heard it like gradients of usage. So you'll still have like power users that actually do want to experience something similar to what a current Bamboo HR experience looks like, where they have the entire screen in front of them. They can work in tables, but then you'll have C-suites or employees that just want to query from Anthropic or from chat and get the result. So, speaking of Anthropic, OpenAI, I saw there was circulation maybe a week or two ago that Anthropic was hiring a people systems leader to build the HRIS products there, and definitely got some buzz in people tech circles. What do you think Frontier Lab is probably missing when they're trying to take on HRIS?
What are they missing? I mean, they're probably missing a ton. And I also, I respect the fact that these frontier models, they're under pressure for revenue, right? I mean, I don't think any of one of the frontier models were like, hey, building kind of the coding suite will allow us to remain in the game and be profitable even, or even kind of pay off the hypothesis around like, hey, when will we see the revenue from AI? Well, they're seeing it through verticalizing and creating a solution around coding. And so, I mean, I don't see them stopping at that. I think they would, I'm sure they've got smart people saying, okay, what's the next vertical that's incredibly important and is well funded, the most funded vertical in all of SaaS, and they'll look at CRMs, they'll look at HRIS, they'll look at ERP systems, they'll look at all of it. But what what they'll get wrong, right? Especially in those early days, is what we're just talking about. Authority to execute. Like whether it's again, respecting those access levels, roles, permissions, being able to you think about what payroll is. I mean, payroll is, we talked about employee records, but compound on that the idea of money movement and the complexities of money movement, the tax compliance, payroll compliance. You talk about filing with the government. There's all these things that anybody, like whether it's a human or an AI, is like, hey, let's jump into payroll. They quickly learn that it's not just about a simple UI that does a complex, or fairly complex, calculation from gross to net on the back end. Like, it's much, much more than that. It's a very robust, compliance-driven system. And so maybe they will start with lighter tasks, but I think it's naive to say that the frontier models won't start thinking more and more about continuing to verticalize. And I think that becomes more of the threat than, let's say mid-sized company vibe coding their HRIS. Like, I don't think that makes any sense. Just even from the point earlier around maintenance. I mean, who's going to maintain that? Who's going to take, who's going to go learn all those lessons we've learned? Who's going to go harden over time millions and millions of bugs that have been, filed to be able to improve and harden the system and make sure it's not vulnerable and make sure it, respects the governance we talked about. Who's going to take on feature requests? I mean, it quickly goes back to what it was 10 years ago. And the same reason why you're not going to build your own CRM or HRS now exists as well. But I think it's naive to think that they won't ever, go after that. But maybe that's in later days when they kind of figure out the whole economic kind of cycle and, stack that they seem to continue to wrestle with. And we see it, we feel it and understand it. But so we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, the regulation in our industry, I think, is a nice buffer. Like you said, money movement is not something you can just vibe code or Anthropic can spin up. And I wouldn't be surprised if the ADPs and some of the big players in the space are doing more lobbying and regulation around it just to fight that moat. But last question I'll ask you is kind of on that note of Anthropic, OpenAI, both had announcements last week where they spun up subsidiary companies to actually do the implementation and deployment of AI systems. And I'm interpreting that as the models are good enough to help businesses, but there's an adoption gap where businesses don't know how to use the models and implement them effectively. And so, setting aside what they're doing, which is probably going to be focused on the Fortune 500, how do you think about not just bringing technology that has AI to employees, but actually deploying it and consulting and actually doing the legwork, the kind of the last mile work to see the results that people are probably hoping for?
Yeah, so I love the question. I think the whole idea of ultimate value exchange and ultimate, value realization is when you have a big task to do, say HR or payroll or onboarding or whatever it is, and it just gets done. And I think, where we're, obviously we're building software and building agents to automate all of that. But I think where we'll also lean into, and I think what's really cool is if you look at our agent platform that we've built, we build agents, call it first party agents that make our product better, and we'll just do things autonomously for our customers with confidence over time. And then there's the whole idea of like, okay, you guys Bamboo, you know how to do, you just do it for me and I'll just pay you for the outcome. I'll just pay you for payroll to be done, to be compliant, to be paid on time without error. And so what we're seeing is increasing desire for our customers to say, just take it, not necessarily a PEO where we're the employer of record or anything like that, but just saying like, just take it, just do all the work for us, and then we'll pay you for payroll being done, employees being onboarded, rolling out this new policy, changing our comp planning cycle and our philosophy, like doing all and really just handing it over to someone like us who they trust and just want it done and don't even want to do it. So I think it's somewhere between the two. So like on the service side, agents powering the services, and then on the other side, agents in the product, and then built on the same platform. So as we learn on the services side, we can bring it to the product side and vice versa, all in the spirit of doing more and more things autonomously, or again, just getting to the point in the place where customers are just paying us for getting things done. And I think that will help people not only understand the power of AI and agents that are coming online, but will also save time and money and worry that these things are getting done. And so I think one will teach the other, and I think along the way, customers will getting more and more getting used to like, I don't do the work, I just make sure I know the policy and I can orchestrate and I can kind of be like oversee everything, but the work is just happening. And so we can do more powerful, more strategic things. So
I think there's like this interesting advantage to forever SaaS businesses were just you didn't want to be in the services space. It was a low margin space and you just wanted to like kind of do Workday's model and just like outsource it to third parties and only sell software. But you're saying like there might actually be this benefit to having both sides of the house. If you do software and services, you cross pollinate the ideas and now you can get closer to outcomes and like creating this transformation just by having that kind of flywheel going. So
it's just them getting, I think largely we think about software as like it's the UI and you're clicking around and maybe you're automating a workflow or you're discovering something over it. But I think where SaaS is going to continue to evolve is that people will, and I don't know exactly what the business model, but it's just used to getting the software will just do it for you end to end. And that's what you pay for. And I think we will just get used to that more and more. And I think services, will help us in that.
yeah, well, I know we ran a little bit over, but really fascinating conversation. I don't think we hit a single of the questions on the initial pre-read, which is perfect. So glad we had the time. Thank you very much for making it. Really enjoyed talking to you today.